Hello, denizens of the YouTuberverse. I'm starting a new series of videos that I'm calling Desultation Nation. You may already be saying, wait a minute, there's no such word as desultation, but yes, there is. I coined it just very recently by backforming the word desultory to get the verb desult, and that is actually an archaic verb. It fell out of use probably 300-400 years ago, so I'm considering that the word to be new again. And from there I came up with participle desulting, and then the result of desulting is desultation. The word is derived from Latin, which word that means to leap about, and it means to leap from one subject to another in sort of a random fashion. So that's going to be how these videos go, just kind of like stream of thought. When I was coming up with the idea for this, I decided I would have an AI come up with an image for me, and this is the one that I like best. I think it captures the whole spirit of Desultation Nation. We have some cruise missiles in the top there, and some giant butterflies, and the moon in the foreground, and the earth in the background. And there's a station wagon loaded with luggage stuck in the mud there. And on the bottom we have a pterodactyl airliner, it looks like, in the upper left. And then there's the earth and the moon again. More cruise missiles, and a large entertainment center sitting in the sand there in the lower left corner. So I thought, yeah, this is just perfect. We have our little guy there who's off desultating around. And that's another word that I just derived. I backformed a desultation to get a new verb, desultate. And I think I'm going to be using that one instead of desult. Desultating and desultation has a more effervescent feeling to it. It's like you hydrogenate vegetable oil, carbonate beverages, desultate a narrative. So yeah, I think that's the word I'm going to go with. And from there I kind of desultated to some videos that other YouTubers do, where they analyze paralinguistics and body language, and I thought I would comment on a couple of those. I'm very interested in linguistics and paralinguistics, and because of that I like to look through YouTube for people who do analyses of language and the way people speak, but I've been kind of disappointed in the quality of the analysis that I find. One of the ones that I came up with recently that sort of disappointed me was by this YouTuber who called himself Martin Decoder, and he's talking about the difference in the rhetorical styles of Harris and Trump, and it's mostly just kind of not very interesting descriptions of pathos versus logical argument. But he also misuses a word very early in his video that kind of irritated me. I'm going to go ahead and play that section and then tell you why this was irritating to me.
So unions are going to be affected very soon, and you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast.
The examples Trump mentions, Ohio and Colorado, are called Synecdoches, small parts of a problem that are used to represent the whole. Politics is full of Synecdoches like, see, the employment rate is bad because this car company can't afford to hire, or schools are doing great because the teachers at this school are great, and so on. Trump uses Synecdoches to justify his immigration policies.
or to remove record numbers of illegal aliens, but we're going to have it do really well very soon, and we're shipping all these people back where they came from. And now, before I sign the Laken-Riley Act into law, I would like to ask Laken's really incredible mother, who I've gotten to know, if you could come up, Allison, and say a few words, that would be great. Thank you very much.
We also want to thank President Trump for the promises he made to us. He said he would secure our borders and that he would never forget about Laken. And he hasn't. He's a man of his word. We trust that he will fight for the American people. Thank you.
Thank you.
The emotional impact of this particular tragic synecdoche is likely to be greater because Trump lets the victim's mother be part of it.
Okay, and that's not a synecdoche. Synecdoche is a rhetorical device that falls in the same category as, say, metaphor or metonym. It's when you use part of something to represent the whole. For instance, if you say all hands on deck, you're using hands, a portion of the workers, to represent the entire worker. So you're saying, you're not just asking for these workers' hands to be there, you're asking workers to be there, and are using hands, a part of the workers, to represent the whole thing. Another one would be, we need more boots on the ground. When you say that, you're using boots to mean soldiers. And that one kind of is borderline synecdoche metonym. A metonym is when you use something associated with something to represent it. So you could argue that boots are associated with soldiers, but they're not part of soldiers. But I think most people in academia who are being very pedantic would say, well, boots are basically part of the soldier, therefore it's a synecdoche. So what Trump is doing here is not producing a synecdoche. It's just an example, a case in point. So I'm not sure why he chose to use the word synecdoche to describe this, but that sort of bugged me from the outset and kind of gave me a bad feeling about where this analysis is going to go. After Martin Decoder introduces this idea of synecdoche, this erroneous idea of synecdoche, he continues to bring it up in different erroneous ways. I'm going to play a little more of the video that he produced and then discuss where it went wrong.
Thank President Trump for the promises he made to us. He said he would secure our borders and that he would never forget about Laken. And he hasn't. He's a man of his word. We trust that he will fight for the American people. Thank you.
Thank you.
The emotional impact of this particular tragic synecdoche is likely to be greater because Trump lets the victim's mother be part of it. The victim's mother helps to complete the synecdoche, so to speak. Ultimately, politics is about branding, so when the mother says that Trump's a man of his word, it's understood that he's not just a man of his word in this case, but in all cases, allegedly.
And here, what Martin Decoder is doing is he's describing a hasty generalization or a secundum quid, where you produce a specific example and then try to generalize to the whole from it. He's saying that because Trump was truthful in this case, it means he's truthful in all cases, which doesn't necessarily apply. Another example of the hasty generalization would be dogs are dangerous. Case in point is my neighbor's dog who killed my cat last week. You can't generalize to all dogs from that one particular dog that killed your cat. And Martin Decoder is misusing the term synecdoche to describe what he is arguing is a hasty generalization, or a secundum quid in this case. Martin Decoder goes on to further describe what he calls a synecdoche, which clearly is not a synecdoche. I'll play a little of that for you.
The most typical criticism of synecdoches is that they aren't necessarily objective, that just because someone's able to mention one thing that's good, bad, or tragic, it doesn't mean that a given policy is good or should be changed. It's always possible to find a good, bad, or tragic case, no matter what the political issue is. Whether voters will agree with a given synecdoche, therefore, often depends on their political stance.
Okay, and clearly it's not a synecdoche that he's describing here as a hasty generalization or a secundum quid, where you're trying to generalize from a specific case. In this case, generalizing that all illegal aliens are going to behave like Laken Riley's killer, and showing that as a very tragic case, and using it to say this is what they're always like. That just is not logical to come up with that conclusion. To go in and describe all of the thinking errors and misuses of words that Martin Decoder uses in this 9-minute video would probably take over an hour, because it's just so dense with problems. And I guess that's one of the reasons why creating these brief videos for YouTube usually result in something that just is not a very good quality. To go into the detail that you would need to really describe what's going on, you would have to spend a lot more time, and you'd probably lose a lot of listeners, because they'd kind of get bored with listening to the details of what is actually going on. In rhetorical debate, the conclusions that the person wants the listeners to come up with are already decided before the debate starts. So a debate is not there to show the logical validity of your position. It is to convince the listeners to come to your side. So when you're debating, you've already decided what the outcome should be, and you're trying to bring people around to your way of thinking. Sort of the classic example of this in literature is the Mark Antony speech in Julius Caesar. Brutus comes out initially and gives a very brief, logical account of why Julius Caesar had to be killed. And it's logical. Julius Caesar was a threat to the Republic, and we just had to take care of it. Mark Antony comes out and gives a much more lengthy and very pathetic, pathos-filled speech about why it was so horrible that Julius Caesar was killed. So each of them comes in with having decided before they start what the conclusion is. Brutus has decided that yes, this logically follows that we had to kill Caesar. He presents his logical argument, which is a mistake, because that's not what's going on here. Mark Antony cleans his clock, as it were, by giving a very emotional, lengthy talk about how Julius Caesar loved the people, and ends up causing the downfall of his opponents, who killed Caesar for what can be arguably stated as logical reasons. So that would have been a more useful way of going into this and discussing how they use rhetoric, other than what he did, where he just completely misuses words to arrive at his conclusions.
Thus, the opposing side would say that these examples, these synecdoches, can be used as proof that the entire country is being destroyed, that Trump's fear appeal isn't substantiated. They'd also say that Trump's diverting attention from the topic at hand, going from a conversation